Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mad Capper and there's another video on Raid Shadow Legends and another in our series of I Built Them So You Don't Have To. Today is the long-awaited step into the Shadowkin faction. I've built out several champions that I want to feature for you, but today I want to start with one of my favorite looking champions, and that is Chonoru. So without further ado, let's take a look at Chonoru. Chonoru is an epic attack-based Spirit Affinity champion of the Shadowkin faction. And first off, as always, I like to talk about their design and their look, and this champion is phenomenal. I love the look of her. It says Shadowkin is a Asian-inspired thematic. They've got a lot of warriors, and they've got some kind of more mythical type looking creatures or people or whatever. You'll see what I mean when we check one of the later videos. But this right here is just that traditional kind of Ronin looking, all black. It's got the roses, almost looks like, yeah, just everything about it, like an assassin style. The long black sleek hair, and you know, the bands up the legs, and just the leather. The leather padding, which is very similar to the kind of shinobi or the kind of that style of the samurai or Ronin. I really like it. Overall, love the look of the champion. Except one thing is the sword. First of all, there's a little, looks like it's a crack in that sword. I don't know what that is about. It shouldn't be there. I can't understand why. And secondly, black steel. I don't think black steel would be a thing. I don't know if that's just a me thing, but I figure a nice samurai sword would have been quite sufficient. Nonetheless, amazing looking champion. As far as her stats, you've got 12.5 of HP. You've got attack at 1509, very nice starting point. 99 speed, another great looking starting point. 15% crit rate, 60% crit damage. Her kit consists of 3 abilities. Lay Bare is a 4-turn bookable to 3-turn cooldown, which removes all decreased defense buffs from all enemies and then attacks all enemies, and decreases the cooldown of Lay Bare by 1 turn for each enemy killed by this skill. Her A2 is a 4-turn bookable to 3-turn 75% chance, bookable to 100% chance of placing a 25% weaken debuff for 2 turns, and it attacks 3 times at random. I hate 3 times at random, but whatever, I'll deal. I'll get over it. And then her A1 attacks one enemy, has a 40% chance of placing a block buff debuff for 2 turns, and that is bookable to 50% chance. Why don't we jump right in? We're going to take her into the into a dungeon. We're going to take her into the Ice Golem because she is Spirit Affinity. We're going to follow that up with a run, and then we will take a look at how I built her out, and then we'll finally finish up in the arena, where I really think that she's going to be able to at least be very situationally helpful. So though, you know, let's just jump right into the Ice Golem and see what she can do. Here we are in the Ice Golem with some of the usual suspects that I have featured in the Ice Golem several times. Of course, we have the debuffs. We have Ethos as our reference legendary champion who has both AoEs and single target, so he's a very good champion to kind of reference. Then we have, of course, Chonoru, and then we have Luria and Phoenix. So where everyone is at, Phoenix is sitting at 4k attack, 234 crit damage, 196 speed, good accuracy, but he is in Savage, so he's going to be hitting a little bit harder. Luria, we have at 4240 at 257 crit damage, and she is in normal gear, or non-savage, non-cruel gear. And then, of course, Chonoru we'll see in a minute. Ethos, as our reference, is in Savage, and he's hitting 6160 at 245. All right, so this should be interesting. Okay. So A3. Boom. See the damage, 114, 118. You see the damages. Let's leave the battle for a second, and we'll just see the total. 575 is what he did. All right, test number 2. We've taken Ethos out so he doesn't absolutely demolish the team before we get to do the test here. And now let's test the A3 of Chonoru. And here it is. And a much lower number. I think we can actually run both of these guys through. Yeah, see, there you go. She'll probably kill them with hers, so let's leave the battle. So 256, 219, very similar numbers. He's ignoring defense, but with the defense down, that is a little bit less of a big deal. But still, nonetheless, Very similar numbers. She hit for a little bit more. Whether or not that was Helm Smasher procs or just she's a little bit harder hitting, there is a mechanic, and we'll test her mechanic in the arena. But that's kind of interesting to note that her A3 is hitting similar to Phoenix's A2. Let's replay this one more time. I was gonna do this in the Doom Tower, and the problem is Doom Tower has mixed affinities, so it's really hard to get consistent data out of there. Whereas I know these guys are all Spirit Affinity, and we're gonna get those same numbers. So let's just she can use her A1. Please ignore that hit, and then we'll use one over here, and then we'll use her A2 here. It's comparison. There's one death, but let's check the numbers here. So 252. So all very comparable. Phoenix hitting the least on the AoE, but that's not Phoenix's strong suit. That does have a ton of debuff on it. So it is actually, what is shocking is I was kind of hoping Chonoru would do a little bit better damage than Luria, because Chonoru is doing a buff removal, but that doesn't exist in this particular case. Whereas Luria is also freezing, and freezing is a very, very strong spell. And usually when you have one of those strong crowd control spells, you do less damage as a whole. But in this case, they're almost on par with each other. So not unexpected, but it is a little bit unfortunate, if anything. Let's take a look at her A2 now, and we'll compare that, I guess, with the A3s of the other two, although they're not quite the same deal. She is faster, so it's going to be very helpful. So her A2 is that random with the weaken. So 30, does about 30-ish per hit. That's not too bad of a hit. His, of course, is attacks only one enemy, and it hits it for 95. And then this is attacks one enemy and hits for 87. So it looks like very similar overall damages again. Not a lot between them. 87, 95, 101, very similar. I think Chonoru has the slight upper hand in damage, but she's hitting 3 different targets, or can hit the same target. It's random. All right, here's our Ice Golem run. We do bring blinds here in just for the revives and the overall survivability of this in the Ice Golem. It's a cheat, I get it, but it does give us to show off. We've got Deacon in here. And Deacon's very strong. He's got that. He's got defense down. He's got some turn meter manipulation, plus the speed aura, and then of course the other ones in. We've got a couple block revive, a lot of damage. We'll see what they can do in this battle. See what kind of time they can get here. There you go. Not an awful showing. 206. I kind of want sub 2 minute from teams like this. I think we could definitely do better. The problem with this is that even though they all have AoE skills, they all have single target skills, which does kind of bog them down a bit. We got a little unlucky on the first round. Phoenix used his A3 to kill one of the ads, but we did get the block revive on the second round of it. So having the two of them together is always nice. But I will say is when you look at it, so Phoenix in Savage gear with that A1 blocking revive on both champions eventually. Oh no, Luria I think got the other one. But he did big damage with that because of that A1. But Chonoru did quite fine as far as damage went. We could have maybe went with someone other than Blind Seer for additional damage. But you saw at the end there, without an attack down from this team, you really struggle potentially on survivability. and we've made these glass cannons. So not a bad run altogether. So why don't we now, before we take her into the arena, we'll take a look at her gear, we'll talk about it, and then we'll finish up this video with the arena, and then my final thoughts. Here is my Chonoru. So one of the things you have to keep in mind is because Shadowkin is so relatively new, getting the right gear for them is a little bit difficult. You see I have some here, but we're not getting a whole lot of luck on that top end gear, but we are getting some okay. We got a nice double roll on a 5-star piece here. We did get a 40% crit damage that even gave us a single accuracy, and the other one, though didn't land on accuracy, did land on attack, which is also decent. And then finally, we did get an accuracy with a double speed roll. We haven't put any big thought into it, but then we went with double savage and perception gear just to make sure her accuracy is in that mark for her to land her A2 should she need it. And overall, you take a look at the stats here: 4,600 attack, 237 crit damage at 100% crit rate, 258 debuff accuracy, and speed at 220, which for PvE, more speed than I need. I had stronger attack builds. I had her at 5k, 250 crit damage, give or take. We also put her in savage gear once, but when I was building her out, I thought, you know what, I want to use her in the arena, which means that she needs to have a close to speed tune with my ethos. And so as we take a look at my ethos here, he's actually 220 speed as well, but and they're actually the same speed. So putting them in the order we put them in the team is going to, or should, determine which one goes first. And that's really helpful for me, and I'll show you why in a second. So why don't we take, before I do that, I'm getting ahead of myself. Should probably take a look at her masteries. Just so we know, I do have her fully booked. As always, we try to do that on this channel. As you can see here, we did take her down the accuracy tree with the chance to extend. I think that this is more for her A1 because there is that sniper, that chance of placing, because it's not 100%. So that block buffs is a good ability to have, a strong ability to have if you're targeting it. And then I figured just, hey, put her in here, extra chance to extend that weaken if she lands it. And of course over here, we want this, I like the random skill cooldown. I like, of course, the Ruthless Ambush and Helm Smasher. The rest is interpretable. I didn't want to speed her up. This here, for each enemy killed in battle, well, it's 6% in the arena, but she's really just cleanup. So if we're going to a second round on this team, we're in trouble probably. So I like this one better. Anyway, I guess either way, it just depends on how you want to run your team and how you feel it's best going to be used. This is really good for boss fights because you're going to use your default skill a lot more. Counterattack teams as well, very good. Whereas this one's really good if you just know that that's your win condition. That's the champion that's going to do all your damage. Anyway, that is the build I went with. Let's take her to the arena, and I'm going to show you where I think she can be situationally at least usable. So here's a scenario we have. I've taken out Ethos because he's just hitting. I'm trying to get this scenario for you, and Ethos is hitting too hard. And I'm not. I wasn't farming this year because of the arena event. I'm not pushing at all, so I'm kind of only middle of the pack. So I brought in Alika. I put her in kind of just average gear. She's not even crit capped. But we have the Seeker, so hopefully this is going to show you where I think she's going to be of the most use. And this is a case. It is undoubtedly a niche case, but you've got this opportunity here. We're going to hit all enemies, and we killed one, but look at now we've got these shields up. So this is actually going to remove them all, then attack them all, and that's going to be our chance to follow up with that damage without that increased defense stopping us from killing the champions. Undoubtedly, if we don't remove that, we are not getting the same damage out of our hits. And so there's a better example. I know the first one I showed with it was a fail because there's weak hits and stuff, whereas this is a good opportunity. You've got two different affinities here, so you've got the chance to have either the Spirit or Force affinity hit really well. And I'm not just kind of showing off Ethos's damage. So I hope this is a little bit better of an opportunity to see what she can do in the arena. She does hit decently well, so definitely a champion that that can help you out, I think, in the early to mid game. my final thoughts on Chonoru. For the first epic that I have taken to 60 and built out for this faction, I don't know. I'm kind of a hold and wait. As far as the content we have in the game right now, she's very situationally usable at best. Yes, she can counter teams that put up a increased defense, and she has reasonable damage. As we all build out our accessories for her, she's only gonna get better. And so from that perspective, yeah, definitely usable. But I feel like if you're an early to mid game, unless this simply is one of, you only have one or two nukers, you've maybe got your starting champion and her, yeah, build her out. She's going to help you. She's going to do damage for you. She will work in dungeons. She has AoEs. She has a weaken. She has a block buff. So she has a kit that you can probably use. The problem is outside of the mid to, as you push into the late game, she would be very situational at best and only to counter certain specs, because I think there's just champions that can do more damage than her, and aren't as gimmicky on if there's no decreased defense or increased defense on the other team, she's hitting, but it's not crazy damage. She's not getting the cooldown on that A3 to hit again. So I really feel like in Faction Wars is going to be a very strong build. I think she's very usable in certain areas of Doom Tower, or if you're just looking for extra damage, and especially Spirit Affinity, which not everyone always has, so going to be good to help you out in Ice Golem and those sort of things. But ultimately, I think there's probably better champions that you're going to use outside of the faction. And those specific moments where you're trying to counter a Seeker, for example, a Seeker comp, or, Thanasil on a PvE comp, that sort of thing. It will be interesting to see what A, the Shadowkin Faction Wars looks like, and B, what levels 20 to 25 in the dungeons look like, because there you might find that there's more defense up, you're not one-shotting waves, you're having to deal with waves through multiple rounds, and in that case, maybe a champion like this becomes integral to the speed of a tune. And so that is my hope, is that this champion and that defense up removal is a big deal when it comes to those levels coming up. There are a couple of levels in Doom Tower, but not enough for me to say, hey, I'm just going to build this 60 for those 4 waves that are getting me trouble out of 120, right? Whereas I think if there's a Dragon 25, for example, that has a Thanasil Seeker combo, and you're like, no matter what I do, they seem to get that defense up. Here's an option for you. That, I would love to see that. I would love to build tunes around it. So I'm going to kind of holding my breath, hoping that that's the case to make her more usable. Because as one of only a few epics, the only Spirit Affinity epic in this faction, and the fact that the number one thing I can think of is to counter Seeker, who she's weak affinity, which really just kind of hurts. I mean, she'll still remove the defense, but you get a weak hit and you might still be in trouble. So it's a little bit hard pill to swallow for that. So my hope is that the future content we see in this game is going to make her more usable in the game. So stay tuned for that. That said, she can do enough damage to be a build. She can do enough damage. She wouldn't be my first choice of all epics, but sometimes we can't choose what we pull on a free-to-play or a low-spend account. So I wouldn't be afraid to use her as a nuker, but I think that if you have a well-developed roster, you're probably not going to. Those are my final thoughts on her. What do you think? Do you like her? Do you hate her? Do you think that this is something that they've put out there knowing that the future content might rely on this sort of mechanic? Or is it more like they just thought it was a cool mechanic and there's really no, this is a Dungeon 25, or this is a Faction Wars 21, 20, that sort of thing? Let me know in the comments down below. But always, in the meantime, please stay safe out there, be kind to one another, and we'll see you in the next video.